The streetlights flickered as the girl hurried home, backpack hanging from one shoulder, replaying the happy voice note she had sent her mother only minutes earlier. Then everything changed. Raised voices echoed behind her, footsteps rushed closer, and by the time help arrived, silence had replaced the noise. Her mother's world shattered with one phone call, but what happened next was something nobody around them expected. Because instead of anger controlling her choices, she made a decision that slowly forced an entire city to confront truth, accountability, and compassion. At the hospital, machines hummed softly while her daughter lay unconscious, and every whispered rumor outside grew louder. Friends cried, neighbors argued, and fear spread through the community. Yet the mother sat quietly beside the bed, holding her daughter's hand, whispering stories from childhood as if her voice alone could guide her back home. Nurses noticed her unusual calm, but behind her silence was determination. She promised herself something simple: nobody else would feel this powerless again. The following morning, people expected outrage, television cameras, and furious statements. Instead, the mother walked into the neighborhood center carrying folders, notebooks, and one powerful question: why are young people hurting this badly inside? The room fell silent. Some wanted blame, others demanded punishment, nonty for furcomers. But she asked teachers, counselors, parents, and local leaders to sit together for one night and listen. Stories poured out about pressure, loneliness, fear, and young people falling into destructive choices. Her pain somehow created a conversation no one had managed to start before. Social media spread clips of her calm voice, woof, and suddenly strangers across the city began asking how they could help rather than simply react. Days passed, and her daughter remained asleep, while the mother transformed the hospital waiting room into something unexpected. She invited musicians to quietly play calming music, volunteers to support worried families, and therapists to speak freely with frightened teens. Nurses called it the room that breathed hope. Even doctors who had seen years of heartbreak admitted something felt different. One evening, while sitting near the hospital window, the mother quietly recorded a message online. She spoke not about revenge, but about dignity, healing, and the responsibility adults carried to guide young people before pain became destruction. Millions watched, many cried. Nobody expected the message to spread so quickly. Across town, several of the teenagers involved sat silently inside their homes, suddenly overwhelmed by guilt and confusion. They expected anger directed at them, public humiliation, endless shouting. Instead, they kept hearing clips of a grieving mother, asking communities to protect children from becoming lost. One teen broke down in tears after hearing her say, "No young heart is born cold." Counselors soon became involved, and conversations began that had never happened before. Parents sat at dinner tables asking difficult questions. Schools reopened discussions about conflict, fear, and emotional pressure. The city slowly shifted, not because fear forced it, but because honesty finally entered rooms where silence had lived. Weeks later, something extraordinary happened. The girl opened her eyes. Weak and confused, she listened as nurses smiled, and her mother quietly cried for the first time in days. News spread quickly, and outside the hospital people gathered holding candles and handwritten messages of support. Yet the most surprising moment came when the mother sat beside her daughter and gently explained everything that had happened while she slept. She told her not only about sadness but about change. About neighbors helping strangers, students choosing peace circles, teachers staying late to mentor kids who felt invisible. Her daughter listened quietly, amazed that something meaningful had grown from such darkness. As healing slowly began, the mother organized a community event no one expected. Families, teachers, teenagers, and local leaders gathered in a park filled with music, food, and open conversations. Instead of speeches filled with bitterness, there were booths for counseling, mentorship sign-ups, scholarships, and art displays where teenagers expressed emotions they had hidden for years. At sunset, the mother stepped onto a small stage beside her daughter and shared one truth: pain spreads quickly, but healing spreads too when people decide not to look away. The crowd stood silently, many wiping tears, realizing they had witnessed something rare. Months later, the neighborhood felt different. Murals painted by local students brightened once forgotten walls. Schools launched programs helping struggling kids find guidance before loneliness turned dangerous. Families talked more openly. And every year, the girl and her mother quietly returned to that same park, watching children laugh under warm lights while music drifted through the air. People still remembered the terrible night, but they remembered something else more strongly. The woman who answered heartbreak not with destruction, but with courage strong enough to help an entire community rediscover compassion.